Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here because we are unpacking a fascinating and frankly critical timeline today. If you look at the tech news from August 2026, it might just seem like a random list of product updates and corporate announcements, but it's really not. It's actually a cohesive, dramatic story about the collision between rapid technological advancement and global security. We are literally witnessing a tectonic shift right before our eyes, and today, we're going to connect all those dots. Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of everything happening this month, we're using a mental map of 4 interconnected tectonic shifts. 1. Securing the foundation. 2. The dual-use paradox. 3. The expanding attack surface. And 4. Changing the rules of the game. These 4 areas are your absolute key to grasping the month's biggest developments. Let's get right to it.
Part 1. Securing the foundation, infrastructure, and hardware wars.
For the longest time, the bleeding edge of tech was all about software, right? Who had the best code? We'll scratch that. The new battlefield is the physical layer, the silicon itself. Anthropic just launched a joint venture called Theseus with Macquarie and GIC to build purpose-built U.S. data centers. But here's the crazy part. They are actually pledging to cover 100% of grid upgrade costs and any consumer electricity price hikes that result from it. This is a massive so what moment. Frontier AI labs are securing their physical footprints to lock in a massive structural advantage. If you're an API-only competitor, you literally cannot match this. They aren't just building models anymore, they are building the grid. And this physical land grab extends right to the phone in your pocket. Google is launching the Pixel 11 with the Tensor G6 chip. This is a huge deal. It's the first 2-nanometer smartphone chip on TSMC silicon, and they beat Apple to this node by just a matter of weeks. By locking down this hardware advantage right before their New York event, Google is finally poised to fix those long-standing thermal throttling complaints. They are winning a major battle in the global silicon wars.
Part 2. The dual-use paradox, when defenders and attackers share tools.
So as these companies secure better hardware, the AI running on it is getting terrifyingly smart. And this brings up a huge paradox. The very tools designed to defend us, they're now capable of destroying us. Take OpenAI. They literally had to delay the release of their Astra model. Why? Because during safety testing, it reached critical hacking capabilities. These labs are grappling with the fact that their creations are getting dangerously capable. We're entering an era where the most powerful models just can't be released into the wild anymore. They have to be highly specialized and heavily gated.
To handle this, OpenAI is rolling out the Daybreak Cyber program, and it's split into 2 incredibly strict tiers. You've got the blue tier for general defenders doing vulnerability triage and malware analysis, but then there's the red tier for exploit chain development. If you want red tier access, you need identity verification, legal attestations, hardware keys, continuous monitoring, the whole shebang. Why the intense security? Because they've unlocked a specialized GPT 5.6 cyber model for these vetted defenders that safely executes 95% of advanced security requests that a normal model would flat out refuse. And speaking of defense, 89%. That is a massive number. That's the percentage of dangerous commands and prompt injection attacks that Anthropic's new Claude Code Auto Mode is actively blocking. As agentic coding tools go from just helping developers to actually writing and executing code all by themselves, it is absolutely crucial that they prioritize these defensive safety metrics. They just have to, given what these agents can do.
But there's a really ironic twist here. Even as these AI giants lock their front doors and build these gated models, researchers just found a completely new vulnerability class hitting all 3 major providers: OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. It turns out they were all inadvertently leaking their hidden chain-of-thought reasoning traces right through their external APIs. So while they're playing bouncer at the club entrance, their model's internal logic is just slipping out the back door.
Part 3. The expanding attack surface, infrastructure under cyber siege. Zooming out from the AI labs for a second, let's look at the real world. We've got these shiny, lightning-fast AI tools crashing headfirst into painfully slow legacy enterprise infrastructure. The contrast is terrifying. For example, an AI tool recently found 84 distinct flaws in 5G network software. Sounds great, right? Well, 23 of those critical flaws remain completely unpatched by the human vendors. Meanwhile, SAP Commerce Cloud gets slapped with a maximum severity CVSS 10.0 bug, meaning unauthenticated code injection. The gap between how fast AI finds vulnerabilities and how slow human vendors actually ship fixes is a massive, massive problem.
And the exploits are getting so sophisticated.
Take something called a confused deputy attack. Basically, this is when a low-privilege user tricks a highly privileged controller into doing its dirty work for it. Recently, there was a 9.9 CVSS flaw in Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management that allowed exactly this. Someone with just basic namespace-scoped edit rights could trick the system to easily escalate to cluster admin and deploy attacker-controlled code across the entire network without ever actually needing an admin role.
Let's see how this actually cascades in the real world when just one domino falls. Step 1. A shipping partner named Siva Logistics gets hacked. Step 2. That breach exposes Valve and Steam's European hardware customers. Step 3. Dutch retailers like Bol and De Bijenkorf get caught in the crossfire. And Step 4. Even the Ajax Football Club and ING Bank get their data swept up. One single logistics vendor getting breached ended up poisoning an entire supply chain of totally unrelated brands. It's like a giant puzzle where pulling one piece destroys the whole picture.
And nowadays, you don't even need to click a shady link to get hacked. Zoom just suffered zero-click vulnerabilities where participants could hijack other users' devices simply by being in the same virtual room. No clicking, no interaction from the victim at all. You just sit in the meeting and boom, your device is exposed. No wonder recent surveys showed 30% of British manufacturers experienced a cyber attack in the past year. Weak access controls are a huge liability.
But this goes so far beyond stolen passwords or hijacked virtual meetings. We are talking about physical survival. Iran-linked hackers have been attacking programmable logic controllers, or PLCs, at U.S. water utilities. They literally went in and rewrote the ladder logic. That's the core programming language that tells the facility when to trigger safety shutdowns. By disabling those alarms, they forced operators across New Jersey, Alabama, and a dozen other states to manually run these water facilities out in the field just to prevent a full-blown disaster.
Part 4. Changing the rules of the game. Regulators and attackers rewrite the playbook.
Because the tech is advancing so fast and the environment is so hostile, the old playbook is getting thrown right out the window. Regulators and hackers alike are completely rewriting the rules. Look at Europe. Under the Digital Markets Act, the EU is legally forcing Google to open its exclusive Android features to rivals like Claude, ChatGPT, and Copilot by August 2027. We're talking total parity for voice activation, on-device app context, autonomous app control, the works. And by January 2027, Google literally has to share its search query click ranking data with these rival AI providers. This entirely shatters the monopoly on search-grounded AI responses.
Now, you might be wondering, will Google actually comply with this? Well, 10%. That is the chunk of Google's entire global revenue they could be fined if they don't comply. That's not just a slap on the wrist. Regulators today finally have the absolute financial teeth to force structural market shifts, and they are not afraid to use them.
Over in the US, though, the regulatory response is a really fascinating study in contrasts. On one hand, you've got the White House and the Department of Health and Human Services aggressively sprinting, literally running a rapid one-month clinical AI benchmarking sprint to establish consensus safety metrics for healthcare AI. They are moving at warp speed. But on the exact same day, the U.S. Congress is completely stalled out on creating a water risk and resilience organization. They require water utilities to do risk assessments, sure, but there are zero financial penalties for failing them. All while those ICS water hacks we just talked about are actively expanding.
Meanwhile, the cybersecurity agencies are just trying to hold the line using the old playbook. CISA recently put out an advisory on the Gunro ransomware, noting that internet-facing VPNs are the main entry point. Their advice? Patch your stuff. And if you can't patch, use network segmentation. Very solid, standard, traditional defense advice.
But here is the real problem, and the thought I want to leave you with today. The newest generation of ransomware, they're evolving to evade those exact traditional fixes. Threat actors like Deadlock are now using Polygon smart contracts to anchor their command and control operations right on the blockchain. It makes their extortion infrastructure entirely censorship resistant. So what does this all mean? How do we fight back when the attackers move totally off the grid and our usual tools like domain seizures and server takedowns literally just do not work anymore? It's a completely new game and the board is changing every single day. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer and keep questioning everything.